The clatter of silverware against fine china filled the air at Lumiere, Manhattan's most exclusive French restaurant, but Elena Marsh barely heard it. Seated alone at a corner table, designer sunglasses hiding her identity, the 38-year-old CEO watched her empire through the eyes of a stranger. She had built this from nothing, a single food truck 12 years ago that had blossomed into a chain of 17 upscale restaurants across the country. Tonight, she wasn't the boss. She was just another customer, and what she was witnessing made her blood run cold. The waiter had just dismissed an elderly woman at the entrance, his voice dripping with disdain loud enough for Elena to hear. "Ma'am, I don't think this is the right establishment for you." The woman, clutching a worn purse, had simply nodded and turned away, her shoulders sagging with humiliation. Elena's hands clenched around her napkin. This wasn't the restaurant she had envisioned. This wasn't the dream she had sacrificed everything to build. She had come here on a hunch, following anonymous complaints that had been flooding her personal email, complaints her management team insisted were just disgruntled customers seeking free meals. But Elena hadn't climbed from poverty to success by ignoring her instincts. Her mother had cleaned houses to put food on their table, working 3 jobs while Elena studied by candlelight when they couldn't afford electricity. She knew what it meant to be invisible, to be judged by your appearance rather than your worth. The 3-course meal she ordered was impeccable, exactly as it should be. The seared scallops melted on her tongue, the bouillabaisse was perfection, and the crème brûlée arrived with the satisfying crack of caramelized sugar. But none of it mattered. She watched her head chef berate a young line cook until the boy's hands shook. She saw the sommelier roll his eyes when a couple asked for recommendations, clearly finding them beneath his expertise. The restaurant was successful, profitable, praised by critics, and completely devoid of the heart she had poured into its creation. As the evening wound down and the last patrons filtered out, Elena remained, nursing a glass of wine, observing the closing routine. The servers counted their tips with barely concealed glee, laughing about the customers they deemed worthy of good service. The hostess touched up her makeup, already planning her evening at whatever exclusive club would have her. No one noticed Elena in her corner, just another faceless customer in designer clothes. Then he appeared. The janitor moved through the dining room like a ghost, someone so accustomed to invisibility that he had perfected the art of not being seen. He was perhaps in his 60s, his dark skin creased with years of hard work, his uniform clean but faded from countless washings. Elena watched as he carefully collected abandoned napkins, wiped down tables with methodical precision, and swept the floor with the kind of attention to detail that had become rare in her industry. What struck her most was his gentleness. When he found a dropped earring beneath table 12, he didn't pocket it or toss it aside. He carefully placed it in a small envelope, labeling it with the table number and time. When he noticed a wobbly chair, he produced a small tool from his cart and tightened the screws. This man, who was likely paid minimum wage and treated as invisible by the staff, cared more about this restaurant than people earning 5 times his salary. Elena stood, intending to introduce herself, to thank him for his dedication, perhaps even to learn his name, something she realized with shame she didn't know, despite him working here for over 3 years according to the employee records she'd reviewed. But as she approached, the head chef emerged from the kitchen, his face twisted with irritation. "Jose, what are you still doing out here?" the chef snapped. "The trash should have been taken out 20 minutes ago. Do I need to explain your job to you again?" The janitor, Jose, simply nodded, his eyes lowered. "Sorry, Chef Marcus. I was just making sure everything was perfect." "Perfect?" Marcus laughed, a cruel sound that made Elena's stomach turn. "Your job is to clean up garbage, not play restaurant inspector. Just do what you're paid for and get out. Some of us have standards to maintain." Elena was about to intervene when Jose simply said 3 words that stopped her cold: she would care. The kitchen went silent. Marcus's face reddened. "Excuse me? What did you say?" Jose looked up then, and Elena saw something in his eyes she hadn't expected, not defiance, not anger, but profound disappointment. Ms. Marsh. The owner. She would care that the chair was broken. She would care that a customer lost her earring. I read about her, about how she started. She would care about doing things right, not just looking good. Elena Marsh hasn't set foot in this restaurant in 2 years, Marcus scoffed. She's too busy being a CEO, flying around on private jets, doing magazine interviews. She doesn't care about a wobbly chair or your feelings. She cares about profit margins, and right now, you're wasting company time. Elena felt each word like a physical blow. Was that what her employees thought? That she had forgotten where she came from? That success had made her indifferent? Jose nodded slowly, picking up his cleaning cart. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm just a janitor who doesn't know anything about running restaurants. But I knew my Maria, and she taught me something before she died. She said that how you treat people when no one's watching, that's who you really are. And I think Ms. Marsh, the real Ms. Marsh who started with one food truck, I think she knew that too. He started to push his cart toward the back, but Elena couldn't stay silent any longer. Wait. Both men turned. Elena removed her sunglasses, letting them see her face fully for the first time. The color drained from Marcus's face as recognition dawned. Jose simply looked confused, then shocked, then utterly mortified. Ms. Marsh, Marcus stammered, I didn't realize, we weren't expecting. Elena held up her hand, silencing him. She walked past the chef, her heels clicking on the floor she'd watched Jose clean with such care, and stopped directly in front of the janitor. Up close, she could see the calluses on his hands, the pride in his posture despite his humble position, the kindness in his weathered face. Jose, she said softly, tell me about Maria. Tears welled in the older man's eyes. My wife. She passed last year. 42 years we were married. She cleaned houses, worked in restaurants. She always said the measure of a place wasn't the food or the decorations, it was how they treated the people nobody sees. Elena's throat tightened. It was exactly what her own mother had said, lying in a hospital bed, making Elena promise never to forget where she came from. Your Maria was a wise woman. She was my everything, Jose whispered. I work hard here because she taught me that's what you do. You do your best, even when no one notices. Especially when no one notices. That's integrity. Elena turned to Marcus, whose expression had shifted from shock to barely concealed panic. You're fired. Pack your things and leave. HR will contact you about your final paycheck. But Ms. Marsh, he began. No buts. You've created a culture of cruelty and arrogance. That ends tonight. She addressed the other staff members who had gathered, drawn by the commotion. Anyone who has a problem treating every person who walks through these doors, customer or colleague, with dignity and respect can leave with Chef Marcus. I built this company on the principle that good food and good character go hand in hand. Clearly, I've been absent too long. The silence was deafening. Elena turned back to Jose, who looked like he might collapse from stress. She smiled, a genuine warmth flooding through her for the first time in months. Jose, how would you feel about helping me fix this place? I need someone who understands what Lumiere was supposed to be. Someone who cares about wobbly chairs and lost earrings. Someone with integrity. Ma'am, I'm just a janitor, he protested weakly. My mother was just a house cleaner, Elena replied. And she was the smartest, most honorable person I've ever known. I'm not asking you to cook or manage finances. I'm asking you to help me remember why I started this. To be my eyes and ears. To remind me and everyone else that every person matters. Jose wiped his eyes, nodding slowly. Maria would have liked you. I wish I could have met her, Elena said honestly. But I promise you this, from now on, this restaurant, every restaurant I own, will honor what she believed. How we treat people when no